Let's see, what am I missing here? Oh yeah. Hat, check. Sunglasses, check. Pepsi, check. Notes, check. Sources, check. And thick skin, check. Let's go. Welcome back to Going Unbloated, everybody, and all we do here is college football. So if you're a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, feel free to send gear to represent you and your team. Look around, that's what my background is made of. So if you want to be a permanent part of Going Unbloated and my background, send gear to represent yourself and your team to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. Ah yes, the Big 12, or as I like to call it, the Big Bullseye. The Big 12 has been the target of a lot of conference realignment. The Pac-12 has taken members away from the Big 12. Well, they took one, and that's Colorado. The Big X took a member away from the Big 12, and that was Nebraska. Of course, the SEC has straight up had a buffet on the Big 12. They took Missouri and Texas A&M to start, and now they've taken Texas and Oklahoma. And I really love it. I really love it when fans of teams that are in the Big 12 are like, yeah, but that was then, this is now, the Big 12 is safe. We are good to go. Based on what? You can't base it on history because the Big 12 has been one of the biggest targets in this conference realignment. The only conference that got it worse than the Big 12 was the Big East. The Big East no longer exists. Sure, they reformed and called it the AAC, but it is nothing like it was whenever it was the Big East. So the Big East is the only conference that has gotten it worse in conference realignment than the Big 12. Big 12 has a big old bullseye on it. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because of its region. Right smack dab in the middle of the nation. That's why the Pac-12 could pick off a member, the Big Ten from the north picked off a member, and of course the SEC picked off members from the south. It's right in the prime region where any team could really fit anywhere. Now, I will say this, the Big Ten changed the game whenever they took USC and UCLA. Now geography really doesn't matter, but up until that moment in time, region played a big factor on conference realignment. In fact, West Virginia was almost taken to the SEC. Had they won national championship in 2007, from what I'm hearing, West Virginia would be in the SEC right now. That's the game that keeps giving as far as pain goes for West Virginia fans. I mean, it just keeps giving pain over and over and over. Time does not heal all wounds. In fact, for this game, time has made it even worse. Anyways, I digress. The Big 12, I do think they made a mistake whenever they brought in West Virginia and TCU. Not necessarily West Virginia, but I think instead of bringing just West Virginia and TCU, the Big 12 should have gotten Louisville and Cincinnati. I know you can't necessarily know that Cincinnati was going to be what it is now, and the Big 12 is getting Cincinnati now, but if you would have gotten Louisville and Cincinnati back then, imagine how much stronger the Big 12 would be now. I think Cincinnati would have made the playoffs more than once by now if they had been in the Big 12 this entire time, and it would have made a lot of sense. Remember, Louisville didn't join the ACC until after West Virginia joined the Big 12, so they were still on the market. Louisville was a part of the dying Big East in the newly formed AAC, so they were on the market. Why the Big 12 didn't go after Louisville, I'm still trying to figure that out. If people know the actual reason as to why the Big 12 didn't go after Louisville, or maybe they did and Louisville turned them down and went to the ACC, maybe that's how it went down, I don't know. Let me know in the comments section because I'd really like to know the exact scenario on why Louisville was not chosen by the Big 12 or why they didn't go to the Big 12. Anyways, so I think the Big 12 should have brought in West Virginia, TCU, Cincinnati, and Louisville all at once. That would have been a great move by the Big 12. Remember, they lost 4 members all at once. Colorado, Nebraska, Texas A&M, and Missouri. So bringing in 4 members would have been better than bringing in 2 members. You're only making up 2 of the slots that you lost. Instead, you could have made up all 4 of the slots that you lost. So I do think that was a big time bad decision by the Big 12 not to go after Cincinnati and Louisville. So on to the present time. No, I do not think that the Big 12 is safe. Not by any means. I do think that the Big 10 is interested in some teams, Kansas being one of them. Maybe they could be interested in Iowa State or Kansas State. I know AAU plays a big part in that. Maybe Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. I don't know. The SEC, I'm hearing the SEC is interested in Oklahoma State and West Virginia. And the ACC, they could be interested in a Baylor, a TCU, a West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. So if you're a fan of a team in the Big 12 and you think that the Big 12 is safe simply because they added Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. But if the Big 12 does survive this next round of conference realignment, there are some teams that they need to go after. And a lot of people think that the Four Corners are the next teams to join the Big 12, and that might be true. I'm talking about Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. And that would be great additions for the Big 12, and it would solidify the western front of the Big 12. But really, the weaker side of the Big 12 is the eastern side. Even accepting Cincinnati and UCF, you really still only have 3 teams on that eastern side. They're still out on an island. And Cincinnati does help West Virginia a little bit, but only a little bit. And UCF, they're definitely on an island. Their closest competitor would probably be West Virginia, and that's still a big gap. So UCF needs the most help as far as who you go after in the next conference realignment. Whether the Big 12 gets the Four Corners or not, that's not part of this argument. I'm going beyond that. So the Big 12 needs to go after these 4 teams next. And I'm talking about the ACC. They might have to wait till 2036. So the Four Corners might be the newest additions, and then they might have to wait till 2036. We'll see how the voting and all that stuff goes. Because remember, it takes 8 members to decide, hey, we don't want this conference to exist. We vote to dissolve. And yeah, the grant of rights kind of magically go away. That could still happen. If that does happen, or if the Big 12 needs to wait till 2036, survive till 2036. That might be the new motto of the Big 12. Survive till 2036. Either case, here are the teams they need to go after. In the first wave, they need to go after Louisville. Make up for that mistake back when you just brought in West Virginia and TCU. You're already bringing in Cincinnati. Louisville 100% makes up for that mistake. After that, you need to get Pitt. You have to have that backyard brawl. And I do think there will be some type of a tug of war between the Big 12 and the ACC trying to get the backyard brawl. I do think the ACC wants West Virginia, and they will try to get West Virginia to solidify the backyard brawl. But I also think that the Big 12 will try to get Pitt to solidify the backyard brawl in the Big 12. Either way, one of those conferences will try to solidify the backyard brawl. Now, whether ACC or the Big 12 or neither one of them solidify the backyard brawl, that remains to be seen. But I guarantee you, there will be a tug of war to try to get that backyard brawl in conference. Then you must get Syracuse. Syracuse has a massive fan base. They're having a great year in football this year. That helps their brand. Big 12 must go after Syracuse. And then finally, the last name in the first round is Miami. And Miami helps with UCF. Gives them a travel partner. And from what I'm hearing from Miami fans, they don't like the ACC money. They're kind of mad at the SEC because the SEC is talking about Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and Virginia. So they're actually not wanting to go to the SEC. They're okay with the Big 10, but that's some big time traveling. Big 12 would be much easier for Miami. And I think Miami would be willing to go to the Big 12. So those are the first 4 teams in the first wave of the ACC. Now, the second wave depends on if these other teams are remaining. Now, I guarantee you that Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, Clemson, and Florida State, they're going to be gobbled up. Some to the Big 10, some to the SEC. So those are off the menu. So the next 2 teams that the Big 12 needs to go after absolutely is Georgia Tech and NC State. Now, it could be 4 teams, but that's only if Virginia Tech somehow doesn't get picked up from the Big 10. If somehow, some way, they do not get picked up by the Big 10 or the SEC, then you go after Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. But at bare minimum, you have to go after NC State and Georgia Tech on the next round. That gives you a total of 22 members if you're counting the 4 corner schools. So I do think you need to add 2 more teams to make it 24. The first team, the first must get from the group of 5 would be Memphis. To take up one of those last 2 spots by a group of 5 team, it has to be Memphis. Memphis has a great footing. It's kind of right in between the core of the Big 12 and the east side of the Big 12, so it's a nice bridge. They have the backing of FedEx. They're pouring $200 million into renovating the Liberty Bowl, so they will be an attraction. Bring in Memphis to fill in one of those spots. Now, that last spot, that's the one that could get tricky. You could bring in USF to help with the Florida market. They're in the Tampa Bay area, or you could get SMU, get another Texas school, although I would take USF over SMU. I know that SMU is a stronger brand, but you already have a lot of teams in the state of Texas. Just because of geography and USF is in the Tampa Bay area, whenever they're good, people in that area do care about USF. But if you don't get one of those 2 teams, then maybe you think about a team on the west side, maybe a Boise State or a San Diego State, or a Fresno State, one of those 3 teams to fill in that last spot, and boom, the Big 12 is now at 24 teams. Here's the bottom line. If the Big 12 sits around twiddling their thumbs and does nothing, they will get picked apart again. They need to strengthen their TV deal, and the way you do that is add some good brands. So the Big 12 is hoping that the ACC does get those 8 teams that aren't satisfied with the ACC anymore. They're promised a landing spot. Hey, we promise if you vote to dissolve, we will pick you up. And they decide to dissolve, so then the Big 12 doesn't have to worry about those grant of rights, because trust me, they cannot pay $500 million per team, or they're going to have to wait till 2036. Either way, once they bring in the 4 corners, and that's looking like that's a possibility, a real possibility, you have to focus on the East side as well and grow that conference to 24 members, because eventually that's what you're going to be competing against. Big 12. Big 10 will try to grow to 24, and the SEC will also try to grow to 24. So you have to keep from getting picked apart and grow your conference to 24 as well, so you can compete with the Big 10 and the SEC. So the biggest question is, who can get the better TV deal the quickest, the Big 12 or the ACC? Because step number 1 is keeping your current members. Then you can go on the offensive. Y'all let me know in the comments section. Do you think the Big 12 or the ACC survives? And after the Big 12 does bring in the 4 corners, do you agree with the teams from the ACC that I gave as far as the teams the Big 12 should go after next? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.